Hello everyone and welcome back to another Star Wars action figure review. Today we're taking a look at another figure from the Black Series 6-inch line, although by no means is this a 6-inch scale figure. In fact, it's probably the smallest figure that I've ever reviewed here on my YouTube channel. It is of course the child from the popular Disney Plus series The Mandalorian, and this is in many ways more of an accessory than it is an action figure. For those of you that picked up the Porgs back in around, I think it was 2017, then you've got a vague idea of what to expect with this particular figure in terms of packaging size and contents. Again, this is a very small figure, and in many ways it would have been more fitting as an accessory pack-in with a full-scale 6-inch figure as opposed to an individual release all by itself. Hasbro clearly are trying to capitalise on the popularity of the child from the series, or Baby Yoda if you want to call him that. And I've got to say, you know, I have approached this with a certain level and degree of cynicism. I hate using the term, but you could argue that this is a bit of a cash grab, but it's something that I'm very happy to have in the collection. I recently added this one to my Star Wars collection via staractionfigures.co.uk. There is a link down below in the video description if you'd like to purchase this figure from them for yourself. At the time of recording, unfortunately, the first batch of this figure has sold out. The second is on the way, and hopefully at the time of recording, when you hit that link, more figures will be in stock, but currently they are available for pre-order, so hit that link and get yours while you can. Amazingly, this is or has been confirmed by Star Action Figures as their highest selling figure for the year so far, which is unreal, but at the same time speaks volumes to the popularity of Baby Yoda, or the child. So we are going to jump into this review in a little bit more detail in just a bit. We'll do some size comparisons with a couple of figures from the Black Series and the Vintage Collection. We'll take a look at the packaging and the accessories that this glorified accessory comes with. So right off the bat, we do have the packaging. As you can see, in terms of its overall design, it is very similar to the packaging that the Porgs came in a couple of years ago. It's this very tiny square box, but the overall aesthetic of the Black Series packaging is of course apparent. You've got the Black Series logo featured at the top, you've got the child's name down in the bottom corner. As opposed to an illustration by Gregory Titus, we just have the Mandalorian logo there on the front of the box. On the side, no number in the series. Of course, this doesn't come under the standard 6-inch line. And then on the back, no description, no bio, no imagery, just a lot of legal mumbo jumbo in multiple foreign languages. So nothing too spectacular or exciting going on with regards to the packaging. But again, you can see it in my hand just how big it actually is. So that's the box that the figure comes in. Now let's take a look at what we get inside. Now, as I mentioned, this accessory, because that is essentially what he is, this figure should have been included with The Mandalorian when he was released in the 6-inch Black Series line, in my opinion. But this accessory, or this action figure, does come with accessories of his own. You'll notice I've laid them out at the side here. Inside the packaging, these accessories aren't displayed on their own in the plastic tray. Obviously, if that was the case, once you pop this figure out, these accessories would just go flying and you wouldn't find these for probably the rest of your life. A friend of mine, Martin, pointed out on my Facebook page recently that this small ball is probably about to become the most sought after and hard to find Star Wars action figure accessory in history, because it is, honestly, it's smaller than a ball bearing. I'm not even going to attempt to pick it up, because I know for a fact that if I pick it up, hold it to the camera, it's going to slip out of my hand and it's going to get lost forever. So it's going to stay on the table. It is of course meant to represent the gear stick knob that the child plays with on board the Razor Crest. It is flat on the bottom, so it can sit on a flat surface and it can be balanced in the child's hand as well. Although again, due to its very small size, that is quite easily going to get lost, so do be careful with that. The other two accessories he comes with are of course the soup bowl that he drinks from while he watches Cara Dune and the Mandalorian fight it out. And you've also got the little frog that he comes with as well, that he likes to have a nibble on in the show. One of the accessories I really would have liked to have seen included with this figure would be an interchangeable head. I'd have loved it if Hasbro had sculpted a completely separate head with the frog's legs hanging out of his mouth, like we see in the show. That would have been really cool, but unfortunately it's not something we get with this figure. But the frog itself is very nicely sculpted. I'll bring it as close to the camera as I can to avoid blur. But it's a very small piece, but for its size it's nicely painted. Pretty basic in its decoration, but you can tell what it's meant to represent, which is always good. But again, with regards to the gear shift and the suit ball, I'm not going to attempt to pick those up and show them to the camera because I'm likely going to lose them. But inside the packaging, these accessories do come stored inside this small plastic container, which is really useful and really welcome because it just allows you to store those accessories in a much safer way. If you don't want to put them on display with your figure, you can store them away in this container, and that will keep them safe and avoid losing them, which is really good and nicely welcomed. So that is the accessories that the child comes with. Now let's take a look at Baby Yoda himself, and here he is. Now, in terms of scale, I'm going to be honest with you, this feels a little bit like a Kinder Surprise toy. It's very small. If you guys have picked up C-3PO with Babu Frick, or Rey with Dio from The Rise of Skywalker, also available in the 6-inch Black Series line, then the child is only ever so slightly larger than Babu Frick. He's a little bit more substantial, obviously, in terms of sculpt. There's a lot more plastic going on with this guy than there was with Babu Frick. But in terms of overall size, he stands at about 1 inch tall. And again, he's only ever so slightly bigger than Babu from The Rise of Skywalker. But for a figure of this size, it's really well sculpted. Holding it up to the camera really isn't going to do it any justice, but once you get this thing in hand, the level of detail for a figure this size and the definition in the face in particular is really well done. That was one thing that I was very worried about with this figure, was that when I got it in hand, some of that detail was going to get lost due to the sheer size of this particular figure. But it doesn't. It's really nicely defined, it's really well sculpted, and it is such a faithful likeness to the puppet used in filming the Mandalorian series, which is absolutely phenomenal. I love the detail on this. It's fantastic. The robes could have done with a little bit more weathering in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. For me, the appeal and the main focus, at least, was definitely in the head sculpt, and hoping that none of that detail was going to get lost, and it certainly doesn't. The face sculpt is accurate, it looks superb. You've got, and I'm not sure how well they're going to show up on camera, but you've got really fine hairs painted on the top of the head. Rather than just completely black eyes, you've got a two-tone colour scheme going on there with a bit of green and a bit of black. It's just a really nicely designed and painted little figure, and I'm just very impressed with this one. In terms of articulation, he packs a few punches as well. Again, for a figure of this size, the amount of posability that he has is fantastic. You've got a ball joint at the head, ball joints at the shoulders and at the wrists as well, so he can do the magic hand thing, which is of course welcome. And he also comes with ball joints in his feet, which didn't really need to be there, but they are nonetheless. One thing that really bugs me about the figure is this printed factory information on the bottom. That's not needed. It's an eyesore and it's just not necessary. I think Hasbro could have either painted that in white or at least sculpted it into the rest of the figure, like you see with some of this information behind the feet. But obviously when he's stood on a shelf you're not going to see that, so it's not a major complaint, but when you look at the bottom it is a bit distracting. The figure itself though looks fantastic, and when you compare him in terms of size to a couple of figures from the Black Series and the Vintage Collection, it's hard to gauge really where he weighs in terms of scale. If we move the packaging to one side, I'm going to stand the the Mandalorian from the vintage collection on this side, and then unfortunately his head's going to be out of frame, but here he is alongside the Mandalorian from the Black Series 6-inch line. Obviously in terms of scale he's more accurate to the 6-inch figure, but for me and my displays I'm going to be putting him alongside the vintage collection Mando, just because he looks a bit more substantial and in my opinion at least fits in a lot better with that figure. So let me know what you guys think. Are you going to pick up the child? Have you picked it up? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you for another Star Wars action figure review very soon. Until then, as always, thank you for watching, keep collecting, and may the Force be with you.